Meghan Markle is always attempting to, shall we say, build relationships with very, very, very rich men. Megyn Kelly has weighed in on Meghan Markle's failed plan to bag a billionaire as her marriage to Prince Harry becomes more unhappy by the day.
Meghan is living a life that she's winning and she's doing all these great things, but the reality is not that. The reality is she's a joke. It's embarrassing at this point. It's like, oh my gosh, for real, Meghan, you did that? You're gonna keep doing this? I mean, wow.
You're watching this right now because something almost unheard of just unfolded. When was the last time you saw a former royal, someone who once walked through Buckingham Palace, who sat beside Queen Elizabeth II, who wore the tiara and stood for those historic moments, get stopped at an international border? Take a second and really think about that. What allegedly happened involving Meghan Markle at the Dubai border isn't just another celebrity headline. This feels bigger. It feels like a public signal from one of the most powerful and wealth-driven regions in the world. And if you think the story is simple, you might want to look again. The Dubai situation. What really went down? Let's talk about the setting first. Dubai, the city of gold, a playground for global elites, a place where billionaires invest, celebrities vacation, and influencers craft picture-perfect lifestyles. For many high-profile figures, it's seen as a safe haven. For Meghan, it was reportedly meant to be a fresh chapter. But here's what people forget about Dubai. Entry isn't automatic, even for famous names. According to reports from sources close to the situation, Meghan arrived expecting a smooth arrival. After all, she's a former Duchess of Sussex, a global media figure, someone who has sat across from Oprah and signed major streaming deals. Instead, things allegedly took a different turn. Officials reportedly pulled her aside for additional questioning. Not arrested, to be clear, but delayed. Held for review.
She gotten the benefit of her bargain with Harry because she got the title. That's what she wanted. She wanted to be world famous. She wanted the title. You remember when Harry was single, he was the elephant. He was the one, the most eligible bachelor on earth. You could be a royal. You could become world famous overnight. You could live in a castle. You could have access to the crown jewels. You would be a princess. My God, yes, he could have had his.
Hours reportedly passed in what insiders describe as an uncomfortable and tense process. And then came the moment no one saw coming. She was reportedly informed she would not be granted entry and would need to leave. Imagine that realization. A carefully planned visit suddenly unraveling under bright lights and official scrutiny. Whether this was a misunderstanding, a paperwork issue, or something more layered, the optics alone sent shockwaves. And once a story like that hits the public, it doesn't just disappear. So what's the real reason Dubai allegedly said no? This is where the story takes a sharp turn. And when I say sharp, I mean the kind that makes global power circles sit up straight. Dubai doesn't handle reputation the way Western media cycles do. Over there, your name carries weight. Your history matters. Your alliances matter even more. The Emirati leadership has spent decades building an image of stability, prestige, and elite access. They've positioned Dubai as a global hub for business, luxury, and influence. They're not in the habit of inviting potential controversy into that equation. According to reports circulating among diplomatic watchers, when Meghan Markle's background was reviewed, it wasn't just about celebrity status, it was about long-term optics. Start with the obvious. Her very public split from the British royal family. Dubai maintains deep diplomatic and economic ties with the UK trade partnerships, strategic coordination, shared global interests. From that perspective, hosting someone who has openly criticized that institution could raise questions. Not accusations, not judgments, just questions. And in high-level diplomacy, even questions can be costly.
Woman is nothing but a publicity whore. It's a term of art. We broke the news that she had Prince Harry on her vision board when she was younger. That was her goal, #goal, to marry Prince Harry. So it was all about getting the title. She's done that now. Now she's just stuck with this depressed ginger who has absolutely no family, no friends, and no money. This was not #.
But analysts say it didn't stop there. International governments don't just look at headlines. They look at patterns. They examine trajectories. They study how situations evolve over time. And when Meghan's post-royal timeline is reviewed, it's undeniably eventful. There was the televised interview that sparked worldwide debate. there was the high-profile streaming series that drew strong reactions from both supporters and critics. There have been legal disputes, staff complaints that were publicly reported and later addressed internally, business partnerships that launched with fanfare and quietly shifted direction. Each individual event can be debated. Each has its defenders and detractors. But when viewed collectively, some decision-makers reportedly saw a pattern of recurring turbulence. And in regions where political and reputational stability are prioritized above all else, turbulence is not attractive. Now here's where things reportedly escalated. When Dubai allegedly declined entry, attention turned to a possible alternative, Saudi Arabia, and not through a simple tourist visa route. According to insiders cited by commentators, there were exploratory discussions at elevated levels. The idea wasn't just short-term travel, it was longer-term positioning. A potential base insulated from Western media storms. Saudi Arabia is no stranger to hosting high-profile figures. It's a nation with immense resources, royal authority, and significant global influence. For someone seeking distance from relentless press cycles, it could have looked like a strategic pivot. But once again, reports suggest the answer was no. Sources familiar with diplomatic culture in the region claim the review was swift, thorough, calculated.
Royal family, you should be so thankful this woman wanted to leave, because she's not going to bring any good to the branding of royal. She's going to downgrade it to a level of ghetto, and that's what it is. This is just bad.
And the conclusion, according to those same accounts, was that hosting Meghan could introduce unnecessary reputational exposure. One insider allegedly summarized the sentiment in simple terms: established institutions prefer alignment, not friction. That statement, if accurate, speaks volumes. Saudi officials reportedly examined the Oprah interview and the global reaction that followed. They reviewed the streaming documentary and the commentary it sparked. They considered ongoing legal matters and public disputes that remained unresolved in the media narrative. In international relations, perception can weigh as heavily as fact. And once a profile becomes polarizing, it becomes unpredictable. Diplomacy thrives on predictability. Then another layer entered the conversation. Some London-based analysts speculated that quiet communications may have taken place between allies. Not directives, not demands, just informal updates. Diplomatic ecosystems function through constant information exchange. If questions were raised about future movements or potential relocations, it would not be unusual for allies to share context. Prince William's name inevitably surfaced in commentary circles. Observers close to palace dynamics have long reported tension between the brothers. Some claim William views Meghan as someone who operates through strategic media positioning. Others argue that's an unfair characterization shaped by years of tabloid narratives. What's undeniable is that relations between the two camps have been strained. If diplomatic briefings occurred, supporters would frame them as responsible transparency. Critics would frame them as interference. The truth likely sits somewhere between those interpretations. What matters is this: Saudi decision-makers reportedly evaluated the total picture and decided against involvement. And in international politics, a refusal rarely comes with detailed explanation.
There that she's still married. I mean, this woman's going to keep trying to get elevated with the next man, because that's what she wants. Because, Harry at this point doesn't even have enough money for her. And so she needs to find the man that's going to really give her what she wants.
It's usually delivered quietly, decisively, and without negotiation. So how did Meghan reportedly respond? Sources claim frustration, not mild disappointment, real frustration. From her perspective, regions known for wealth, privacy, and power could have offered breathing room. Instead, doors appear to close one after another. When high-level negotiations fall apart, the impact isn't just logistical, it's symbolic. It sends a signal that influence has limits. That celebrity doesn't automatically translate into diplomatic leverage. Since then, observers say media outreach around her image has intensified. Public relations efforts appear more active. Stories emphasizing empowerment, resilience, and independence have circulated. At the same time, some outlets that once championed her have grown more measured in tone. Not hostile, just cautious. And that shift is significant. Because in the court of global perception, momentum matters. When multiple regions hesitate, even if for different reasons, the narrative compounds. It creates an impression of isolation. Whether fair or not, supporters argue Meghan remains a modern figure navigating outdated systems. Critics argue she miscalculated how international power structures operate. Both perspectives exist. Both have passionate defenders, but one reality stands firm. In diplomatic circles, reputation is currency, and once a name becomes associated with prolonged controversy, even if disputed, governments weigh the cost carefully. Dubai reportedly chose caution. Saudi Arabia reportedly chose distance. And in elite geopolitical environments, those choices ripple outward. The bigger question now isn't just about entry or relocation.
These billionaires can sense one thing. When you're not looking for a partner, you're looking for a solution. And that's obviously the lane that Meghan Markle's in now. She doesn't make really her own money. This whole Netflix thing is just a ruse. We all know this is made up just to give her something to do. Her miraculous renewal for her second season, which was already shot in full by the time the first season was done, meaning they just made some extra episodes and decided to roll out a fake second season as a PR plan.
It's about long-term positioning. When traditional power centers signal hesitation, where does someone rebuild influence? Because in global politics, perception doesn't just follow power. It shapes it. The tide feels different now, and many observers believe Meghan knows it. Let's bring this back to California, because while international headlines swirl, the situation at home reportedly hasn't been calm either. That Monteceto mansion, the sprawling estate that symbolized independence and a fresh start, has become the center of new speculation. According to multiple reports circulating in media circles, Meghan and Harry are no longer living there full-time. The reasons remain unclear. Some sources point to high maintenance costs. Others hint at complex financial restructuring. Nothing has been officially confirmed, but one thing is consistent across the chatter. Their living situation has reportedly shifted to something more temporary, more controlled, and far less grand. For two people who once had access to royal residences, global staff, and institutional backing, that shift is symbolic. Downsizing isn't just about square footage. It represents a change in leverage, a recalibration of expectations. And insiders say the pressure behind the scenes has intensified. Then there's Harry. According to several commentators familiar with palace dynamics, Harry has been described as more withdrawn lately. Some claim he's attempted to quietly rebuild communication channels with his family. Those efforts, if they've happened, appear to be complicated. Trust once fractured publicly doesn't repair easily. Friends quoted in various outlets describe him as reflective.
Bounce pass him to some other taker who might actually just love the guy. She will take her royal kids who can still go by prince and princess and find
Frustrated, missing structure, missing purpose, missing the clarity that came with defined royal duties. Whether that portrayal is fair or exaggerated depends on who you ask, but the narrative is growing louder. The reality is simple. Returning to his former role would not be straightforward. The monarchy operates on continuity and discipline. Every public dispute makes reconciliation more complex, and with each new wave of controversy, the bridge seems harder to rebuild. Critics argue Harry underestimated the institutional strength of what he left behind. Supporters argue he chose personal freedom over rigid expectations. Both sides have strong voices. What's undeniable is that life outside the royal framework has been far more turbulent than many anticipated. As for Meghan, observers say she shows no sign of retreating from her chosen path. Her public identity has become intertwined with speaking out, challenging institutions, and reshaping narratives. To reverse course now would mean redefining that entire story. And that would be no small shift. In regions like the Gulf states, reputation carries extraordinary weight. In places such as Dubai or Saudi Arabia, your name functions like currency, your alliances are evaluated, your public conflicts are examined. And once a profile becomes associated with recurring controversy, internal caution systems can activate. Diplomatic analysts suggest that certain high-profile names sometimes receive what's described as reputational notes, not criminal records, not formal bans, simply internal awareness. Markers advising heightened scrutiny. If Meghan's name has triggered that kind of caution in multiple regions, it reflects how closely governments track global figures. And here's the irony. Meghan has long spoken about being unfairly labeled by institutions. Yet now, some argue, the label forming around her
Give her anything else anymore. He served his purpose. His purpose is over, and they're no longer aligned in purpose. So it's for her, it's time to move.
internationally revolves around unpredictability. Another layer to this ongoing debate involves the bullying allegations that have shadowed her for years. Meghan has firmly denied those claims. Her legal team has addressed them. Her representatives have rejected the accusations strongly. However, former staff members have not publicly withdrawn their statements either. The Buckingham Palace review into workplace culture was never fully released to the public. That absence of transparency allowed speculation to thrive. Some insiders maintain that several staff accounts shared similarities. Others argue the investigation's confidentiality prevents any balanced conclusion. What complicates matters further is that similar workplace complaints reportedly surfaced in the United States. Different teams, different environments, comparable allegations, again unproven in court, but persistent in media discourse. And persistence shapes perception. For a period of time, Meghan's public narrative generated significant sympathy. She positioned herself as someone confronting entrenched systems, advocating for mental health awareness, defending her family. That messaging resonated globally. The Oprah interview sparked emotional reactions across continents. The streaming documentary dominated online discussion. But sympathy is not permanent. Over time, audiences begin evaluating consistency. They revisit timelines. They compare messaging with outcomes. That's when narratives face their toughest test. Is she unfairly targeted? Or has strategic storytelling blurred accountability? Those questions now surface more frequently, not only in tabloids, but among mainstream commentators who once leaned supportive. When empowerment messaging collides with repeated controversy, brand strength can wobble. Analysts note that expansion appears stalled. New ventures have not launched with the same momentum. Partnerships have shifted. Public excitement feels more cautious than enthusiastic.
Other men, I remember when she was at that tennis match, looked like she was flirting with Serena Williams' husband, like with her skirt and just how she just looks at men. Harry doesn't.
Really did expect Harry to be a billionaire when she met him. She was incredibly disappointed to find out he's only worth a couple million, and she's gonna have to actually work and hawk these jams and jellies and dog biscuits to have the life.
So what happens next? If international options narrow and media goodwill becomes conditional, strategic recalibration becomes necessary. Some unconfirmed reports suggest Meghan's team has explored alternative jurisdictions with looser media scrutiny, smaller nations, quieter environments, but those locations rarely provide global influence. And influence has always seemed central to the vision. If privacy alone were the goal, a low-profile lifestyle could have been chosen years ago. Instead, high-visibility interviews, premium streaming contracts, and public speaking circuits remain priorities. Prestige matters. Recognition matters. Being welcomed into elite spaces matters. That's why the reported refusals from major Gulf powers carried weight beyond logistics. They symbolize something deeper, a boundary. Because in global diplomacy, acceptance signals endorsement, and rejection signals hesitation. Now the narrative stands at a crossroads. Financial speculation swirls, media relationships fluctuate, Harry's reported longing for structure contrasts with Meghan's forward-facing resolve. Whether this phase represents temporary turbulence or a lasting shift remains to be seen. What is clear is that reputation, once questioned on an international scale, requires careful rebuilding. And in elite power circles, rebuilding trust takes time, restraint, and consistency. The question isn't just where Meghan and Harry go next. It's whether the world's most powerful institutions are still willing to open the door. Those invitations weren't just travel plans. They were status symbols. Proof that she still carried influence.
It's not the smartest tool in the shed. Is just like, yeah, of course I'm meeting up with X because we need to talk business. We need money. We've got this lifestyle. We need these private jets, etc., etc.
Still commanded, respect in elite circles. That's why the reported rejections hit so hard. They weren't minor scheduling issues. They felt symbolic. They felt like powerful institutions quietly saying, "We're stepping back." And symbolism travels fast in global power circles. Now here's where it gets even more telling. According to multiple reports, Meghan has been reaching out to former allies, old friends, past collaborators, people she once worked closely with. Calls that hadn't been made in years are suddenly happening. Messages sent, favors requested, bridges she once left behind are now being revisited. But insiders say something uncomfortable is happening. Many of those calls aren't being returned. Think about that for a second. These are individuals who once publicly supported her, who attended events, who posed for photos, who shared platforms. And now, at a moment when reinforcement would matter most, silence. Why? Because Hollywood operates on risk assessment. Nobody wants to attach themselves to a situation that could explode next week. Nobody wants to wake up and find themselves referenced in the next media storm. In entertainment, alignment is strategic. And when someone's brand becomes unpredictable, people distance themselves. Goodwill isn't unlimited. It's like a bank account. And according to observers, Meghan's balance may be running low. Let's talk about Hollywood specifically. This was supposed to be her arena, her home turf, a return to familiar territory where she could shape her own narrative. The streaming deals sounded promising. The podcast launch created buzz. There were whispers of fashion partnerships and lifestyle ventures. But momentum matters in that industry. The streaming project sparked mixed reactions. The podcast ended earlier than many expected. Some rumored collaborations never materialized. And the most noticeable shift? A-list circles appear quieter.
Meghan ruined Harry. Now that the once carefree, fun-loving prince has turned into a miserable moaner, lashing out from the depths of his paranoia at a world he thinks is conspiring against.
Fewer public endorsements, fewer high-profile appearances, fewer visible alliances. In Hollywood, controversy can be profitable, but only if it translates into ratings, revenue, or cultural momentum. If the headlines generate attention without delivering success, the cost-benefit equation changes fast. Producers start asking hard questions, casting directors calculate risk, brands consider optics, and a new question reportedly echoes in private boardrooms. If we partner with her, will we become part of the next headline? That's the trust dilemma. When relationships repeatedly end in public dispute, potential partners hesitate, not because of one incident, but because of pattern perception. In elite industries, trust is the most valuable currency. You can't rebuild it with press releases alone. It requires steady, consistent behavior over time. And right now, many feel that consistency hasn't been demonstrated. Let's zoom back out to the international message. What allegedly happened in Dubai and Saudi Arabia wasn't just about entry, permissions. It reflected deeper values. In royal systems across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, loyalty to institutions carries immense weight. There's an unspoken code. You may leave, you may redefine your path, but you don't publicly dismantle the house you once represented. From that cultural perspective, decision-makers likely viewed Meghan's public interviews, media projects, and criticisms as bold but destabilizing. Whether supporters call it courageous truth-telling or critics call it disloyalty depends on perspective. But in traditional monarchies, preservation of institutional dignity ranks high. If leaders in those regions evaluated her history through that lens, their caution becomes easier to understand. And then there's the human side of this story, the fracture between William and Harry.
Will, allow their relationship with Prince Harry to expire, but they are holding on tightly to Meghan to work with Meghan in hopes that if there is a divorce, they would get the exclusive and pounce on that access to Meghan because they know that that's the next big thing that would sell.
Two brothers who endured global scrutiny from childhood, two men who faced unimaginable personal loss together. Their bond once appeared unbreakable. Today, it's described as deeply strained. Commentators close to palace reporting suggest William views the situation as institutional defense. Protect the monarchy, protect the future, protect stability. Others argue he's reacting emotionally. Regardless, the divide is real. The tragedy isn't just political, it's personal. Reconciliation becomes harder with every interview, every documentary, every public exchange. And once public trust erodes within a royal framework, restoration becomes a generational effort, not a quick repair. Now let's address the bigger global message. When powerful regions decline association, it reverberates. Other governments observe, other elites calculate. Reputation, once questioned internationally, becomes difficult to recalibrate. Not impossible, but difficult. That's where the current narrative sits. International hesitation, Hollywood caution, strained family ties, and a brand at a crossroads. So what happens next? Some predict a quieter phase, others predict of those routes restore the symbolic prestige that major institutional acceptance provides. And that prestige appeared central to the strategy. If privacy were the only goal, it could have been achieved quietly years ago. Instead, the path chosen remained highly visible. High-profile interviews, premium streaming deals, public advocacy campaigns. Influence was never meant to disappear. It was meant to transform. The challenge now is sustainability.
Speaking of the reality show, the cooking show, I saw the same story. She's already tired of selling the jams and jellies. She's like, well, we might restock in 2026. I think there's no demand. I also think she's lazy. I don't think she wants to work. They don't want to work. They want to twerk and sit around and film videos. So I think she should actually run for office because Meghan Markle, you're lazy.
I like working.
Because influence without institutional backing demands consistent public trust, and public trust is fragile. Could this have unfolded differently? Possibly. Meghan entered the royal family with strong credentials, education, media experience, cultural relevance. She had an opportunity to modernize perceptions from within, to evolve the institution gradually, to build alliances before challenging structures. But change from the inside requires patience, strategy, long-term alignment. Instead, the departure was abrupt, the criticisms public, the narrative confrontational. For supporters, that was necessary honesty. For critics, it was self-sabotage. And now, years later, the consequences appear layered. Financial adjustments, professional uncertainty, international caution, personal strain. The lesson some observers draw is simple. Actions carry long-term impact in elite circles. Doors rarely slam loudly, they close quietly. And once closed, reopening them requires humility, consistency, and time. Can Meghan rebuild? Yes, if she demonstrates stability, if projects succeed without controversy, if partnerships endure without public fallout, if accountability replaces accusation in the narrative. But that shift would require recalibration, and the world is watching closely. So now it comes back to you. Do you see this as unfair isolation, or as the natural outcome of high-risk decisions? Will more institutions follow the cautious approach, or will a powerful ally eventually step forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss what unfolds next. And I'll see you on the next one.